All right, what's up, everybody? Scott here. This is the Keeping It Real Estate with Petey and Scott. I'm Scott. I'm with eXp Realty. Been in the business since 2005, and so me and Petey and I just decided to get together, start talking about our stories and what's working for us, what's not working for us, the good and the bad of real estate. So here we are. This is volume one, and we're getting at it. So I started. Again, 2005, I was really got my license to do flips and investment properties. It wasn't until 2010 that I decided to start working with other people. And so since 2010, I've been doing some real estate, done a few things in between, but really just seemed to always come back to real estate. And it's been fun. I was with Cool Banker, with Benchmark, now with eXp Realty. That's how I got connected with Petey. And so we're rocking and rolling. I'm in Nashville, in the Middle Tennessee area, and that's a little bit about me.
Perfect. Hey guys, I'm Petey. I'm from Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been doing real estate. This will be my fourth year. Scott and I have met in Vegas actually at the EXP convention. So we had one sweet night in Vegas and became best friends from there. So what we hope that you guys are all going to get out of this thing is kind of two different perspectives. Person that's been in the business for almost 15 years and somebody that's been in the business for 4. And I think that you'll find something that you're going to be able to relate to in this and kind of get a wealth of knowledge. Because when you're in this or you're a solo agent by yourself, there's always things that go through your mind and you always have a tough time meeting other people or even talking about it. And hopefully through watching our podcast and watching us interact, you'll be able to kind of get a couple of tidbits here and there so that you know you're not alone in this hard market. So I figure we'd start with Scott. Tell us how you got started, Scott. What got you into the business? What got you going? Who got you into it? Are you still talking to them to this day?
Yeah, I actually had a couple buddies who got into the business, and they were doing investment properties too, and so I purchased my first investment property. And then like in 2005, and then I just decided to get my license. So I didn't have to pay somebody else to do it if I was going to do a lot of different investment properties. And then 2010 is when I decided to really just take it on as a career, and it was a grind, man. It was I was actually I worked for other people. I got laid off my first big boy job, and I was like, man, I don't think I want to work for anybody else again. And I was like, that way I can only blame me if I'm not making any money, And so I actually started valet parking and got got into real estate, again. Yeah, go ahead.
I used to valet park too, Scott.
Did you? I didn't know that.
Maybe this is
Yeah,
the
dude.
thing
Yeah.
of how you're gonna become
Yeah.
successful
Oh,
is by
that's
parking other
hilarious,
people's
man.
cars.
Yeah, I would valet park like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And then I would go into the real estate office, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It was 2010 January is really weird, right when I got in,
Yeah.
and luckily had some friends who liked me enough that I could bother them for like a year. I bothered them for like a year of because I had no idea what even when I was doing investment properties, I really had no idea what I was doing because it wasn't my focus. But I remember January, no deals. February, no deals. March, my friend who, she was kind of mentoring me, helping me learn the business. She was so busy. She gave me a referral, and it was ended up being an $89,000 condo. That was my first deal. And I had to give her a 25% referral, So I was like, man, this, it's something, right? But then,
Right.
the next month I had something, then and then the next one, and then I remember when I had like 3 deals in the same month, and like I thought I was going crazy. I was like, I'm so busy, I don't even know what to do. This is crazy, but I tell you what was cool. What I started doing was just looking at how much money I was making valeting, right? It was probably like 12, $15 an
Oh
hour,
yeah.
right? And so every closing, what I would do is I would divide the money, the amount of money that came in by whatever it was, like $12, $15 an hour, and see how long it would take me with that job to make what I made on selling a house. And so it just made me, it's like, oh man, that would have taken me, 2.5 months, valeting, to make that. And so that's kind of how I just kept myself motivated. But yeah, man, that's kind of how I got into it. And then, eventually I got, kind of got a foothold. My sphere started, believing that I was legit, that I could, could do this for them. And really my main business was starting out was my sphere and that
Right.
network. So, but yeah, that's a short, long answer. So yeah,
No,
what about
it's
you, man? So, mine's been longer than yours as far as like trying to remember how it went. Um, but yeah, man. So you're in 4 years. You're
I'm in
crushing
4
it.
years.
You're crushing it. You're doing things that most people have never done in the business, and you know, you took some bold moves, and they paid off. So yeah, man. Let's hear your story.
So I started off 4 years ago. I got rid of all. I used to be in the restaurant business. It was horrible. I had 10 restaurants, hated my life, always working. And I thought at some point, this is how you make real money. And then I was sitting in Florida one day on a family vacation, just answering my phone over people not showing up to work. They hate each other, blah, blah, blah. And it's tough. You're paying somebody 14, 15 bucks an hour, which is a lot back then. And you're hoping that they're going to run your business. And your whole entire existence is wrapped up into all this, all your money, everything. If they don't work, you don't get paid. So either you're working or you are micromanaging it. And that kind of stress level is just horrible on the marriage. We just had our second child, and I was sitting at the bar, and this guy just looks over at me and goes, Pete, or he goes, he didn't know my name, but he goes, dude, it sounds like your life sucks. And I was like, that's a really bold thing to say to somebody you just met. And, we had been bantering back and forth, and he's like, no, it sounds like it's so stressful, whatever you're dealing with. And I was kind of explaining to him, and I was like, what do you do? And he goes, well, I'm a real estate agent, and I've been doing it for about 30 years. And he had just, I believe he just started running the brokerage down in Naples for Engel Volker. So it was like that Wolf of Wall Street moment. I was like, well, if you think you're so great, blah, 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 what do you, it's like, he breaks down numbers to me. And I was like, bullshit. I don't think that's the way it is. Because when you're outside of the business, you don't understand. And you don't
Right.
get to see those numbers. All you're doing is you're seeing what it's like to buy a house, but you're so wrapped up and consumed into what your house is, you're not even seeing the value of what the person working for you is doing. And I
Mm-hmm.
only bought one house at that time, and that was back in 2007, 2008, and I didn't even understand it. My real estate agent was horrible. I don't even think he's in the industry anymore. So I go back, I tell my wife, look, this guy's the real deal. I've done some research on him. We're selling the restaurant. Some of our leases are coming up. We're getting out. All of a sudden, we're living downtown Minneapolis. I'm ready to move to Florida. I'm just ready. Like, hey, let's go do it. I've always wanted to move. Let's go do it. My in-laws stepped in. They're like, well, we don't want you guys to move. Not yet, blah, blah, blah. So he goes, well, I know some people here. Why don't you check out the brokerage up here? And I'm thinking, man, I'm funny. I think I can speak to anybody. I should be a shoo-in for this. Nope. They turn me down for even starting. And now knowing what I know, who gets turned down
You're
from
the
a
only person I
brokerage?
know. You're the only
Yeah.
person I know.
And yet my pride was like, well, it hadn't quite sank in how crappy that moment was. And I'm like, maybe it's just because I don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. No, I was probably pretty shitty at it or whatever it was. I was very unimpressive. But again, I kept thinking I was. And maybe that ignorance is bliss thing has gotten me this far. So then I interviewed with a bunch of brokers, and I started realizing as a new agent, we don't know anything about caps. We don't know anything about anything. And you are literally getting taken advantage of from the first moment you start, and that sets the tone. I remember going to another brokerage where the guy said my cap would be $37,000.
Wow.
At the time, I was like, oh, yeah, well, it's a part of the business, blah, blah, blah. Who would have ever thought, now knowing how you could even contemplate charging somebody $37,000?
Yeah,
So then
it's
I
crazy.
got wise to it, and I started interviewing with everyone so that I could understand a little bit more. So I finally saw a buddy from high school on Facebook, and I joined this small brokerage, and man, I joined it. The onboarding was great. The training was all right. Because, with training, we've learned if you're not doing this every day and you're not practicing, all that stuff doesn't mean anything because you're going to forget everything. And the biggest thing, like they were saying to you and they told me was, well, it's your sphere. Unfortunately, I didn't have a sphere at that time. I had nothing. So I was like, shoot, I don't have anything. So I go to all these meetings, everything for 9 straight months. I was known as the guy that you want to go to lunch with because we go somewhere nice to eat. And that was pretty much it. And all I had was like a little bit of money left over from the restaurants. And that's what we were living off of. And then, I applied for a job at the airport to get health insurance because I thought, oh man, I got a little bit of money. I think I'm going to live this retired life and try to be a real estate agent on the side. How many times have we heard that, right? I'm going to be a part-time real estate agent and do this great.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't know either. For 9 months, I did not do anything right. I mean, like I went to the office and I sat there for 4, 5, 6 hours, just looking at houses on the MLS and watching people be busy or pretending like they're going to be busy. And then I would go work my airport job on the days that I had to do that. And then since I had never cold called or talked to people or done even any kind of sales job, I used to Uber. I would wake up at 4 a.m. and Uber just to learn how to talk to people. Because
I Ubered too. I did that right when they opened
right?
up in Nashville. Yeah.
Because you thought
Valet and Uber.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes the grit, right? Like you're looking at it going, where were all those moments where it was hard? Because when the good times are, you forget about it. And I Ubered, but I Ubered. So all the long trips, I would try to learn how to keep a conversation from the moment I picked them up to the moment I dropped them off at the airport. I would try to keep a conversation with them. How long have you lived at your house? What do you know about the area? Do you love it? All that stuff, just to learn how to get reps. And that's what I preach now to my guys is like, if you don't have that piece to draw out information from people and to make them feel comfortable, you're never going to be good at this. But it was pride swallowing. So my brokerage for 9 months, I didn't even know how to take anybody out. I would try to ask people to shadow them, blah, 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 but everybody's busy. And who am I to them? If I'm not offering something, I got no value, even if you're friends. Yeah. So they gave me a lead, $159,000.
Yeah.
I took her to 40-something homes. She was FHA, 40-something homes, and she never bought with me. She never bought. I came back from Vegas and beat a snowstorm to take this lady out. And literally, she never bought it. She goes, well, I went to this one open house thing, and the agent there said I could get you in this home and sniped her away from me.
Wow.
It was, and at that moment, you're struggling.
Yeah.
I've got 9 months. I've watched like other people from my real estate that I try to keep in contact with, and at least they've sold 1 or 2. And you're sitting there going, oh my God, I just want to get 1.
Yeah.
I don't even understand why I can't get an appointment. I've met so many different people. I did door knocking for 3 days, which I was horrible at because no Asian man in a predominantly white world should be door knocking on somebody's thing with no value, and I was like, and my self-esteem was shot. Yeah. I just wasn't good. And so we went to New York for 2 weeks, and I came back, and I had a buddy that was at a different brokerage, and he said, well, they give you leads. And I started there, and they gave me a sheet of paper, and then they do this round robin thing where they would send out leads, but it was so skewed. But I just had to make the best of what could happen. So I was calling day and night. And so at the end of that year, we sold 10 homes. And that started it from there. But I know that there's so many people here, just like you and me, that can relate to this. You walk into real estate thinking, I am going to sell so many homes. And then you align yourself with people that say they're going to help you, but they don't. And I think that's what, as people are going through this and they hear our stories and our conversations, they can relate to what we're going through. Because if you started in 05, 06 flipping houses, then you saw the height and then you saw the crash, right, Scotty?
Yep.
And when you hear the crash now, do you think it's the same as when you first started, that big crash?
Yeah. It's so tough to know, man. I thought, when COVID hit, I thought for sure the market was going to slow down, right? And it did the exact opposite. So when that happened, then I was like, man, I don't know as much as I thought I knew about anything, So I mean, I try not to make too big of predictions. I mean, obviously, I talked to my lender yesterday. Interest rates are up over 5 now, which is still not bad. My first house, I had it was 6.75, and it was a
Yep.
good rate at the time. And so we're still like, we're still fine on the interest rates. I think where I'm located, Middle Tennessee, you still have a ton of people moving this way. So even if other parts of the country get hit, by something, I think we're insulated
Right.
in to some degree. So it's just hard to say. I'm still, I mean, yeah, I wrote an offer yesterday with a guy who that was his fifth offer. His last offer, he got outbid by 400,000. They went up over list price. That's the highest. That's the highest that I've heard. 400,000 over list price. He went over he went over like 75,000, and the winner went
Right.
over 400,000 over list price. And so it's gotta something has to happen. Like it has to slow down in some way. I don't. I'm hoping that it's just a steady, just a normal appreciation year over year instead of this the craziness has to stop in some way. So I think that the higher interest rates will hopefully actually curb inflation some. So we'll see, man. I don't know. What are you seeing in your area, your market?
Well, and again, like we're seeing the same thing. We're seeing insane, 5, 6, 7 offers, 15 offers on anything 400 and under. But now with the
Hmm.
interest rates going up, it has freaked some people out. And so you're sitting there looking at it going, is there going to be a crash? And that's why, like, when I was asking you about it, there is not a lot of flipping homes right now. It is really tough. You have to know what you're doing to find that off market property, right? It wasn't like
Hmm.
when you first started doing it. And I think that's where a lot of people, learning to pivot and learn to do all that is going to be one of the toughest things. And in our market, it's the same way, right? Like 2 years ago, people were still somewhat talking about, I'm going to buy a home and flip it, and then I'm going to make a burr on it, and I'm going to rent it out. I think so many people are trying to become landlords, and there's a lot of mom and pop landlords owning 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 units, which is fine, but it's
Hmm.
eating up the inventory. But what we're all not talking about is the big companies going in and buying tens of thousands of it. The
Oh
Black
yeah.
Rocks, Blackstone or Black Rocks of the world,
Yeah.
and then the REITs. And so, like what I've been telling my customers, especially first time home buyers, because it would be tough right now to think about even buying a first time home for $400,000 and
Hmm.
knowing that you're not going to get inspection. You're not, but you have to be honest with people, and you have to
Yep.
prepare them because how many times have you heard lately? I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait till the crash happens because I think it's gonna be like '07, '08, '09. You
Yeah.
hear that quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
But what they're missing out on is nobody talks about the rising rents and what these guys are charging. So you
Hmm.
may be paying 1,200 today, but you're not next year when your lease is up. It might be 1,600 because there's no cap on it either.
Right. Yeah. I have a client right now who he's a first time home buyer, 1 year
Yep.
out of college. He was hoping to get he was hoping to purchase a $500,000 house. He connects him with the lender. He's approved for 400, partly
Right.
because the interest rates just went up 2 points,
Right.
and he said his lease it ends in June, but he can go month to month. But he's like, man, I've got to get out of here because his lease is going up 50%.
Yes.
50%, dude. Like I'm
Yep.
like 50%.
No.
I like that's insane, man. And he hasn't been there that long. It's not like he's been there for 10 years and they're like, hey, we have to get
No.
catch up to the market. They're just jacking it up 50%.
So
It's insane.
their theory on this is if it's not you, it'll be somebody else.
Right.
There is, dude, here I've been watching so I watch a lot of YouTube and stuff like that. I love watching the news, everything, randomly. I don't like to do like the whole hour thing, but
Yeah.
15, 20, 30 minute clips, whatever. But they're saying that that's a new thing, right? Like when we rented a condo downtown, it was the same exact thing, except it was 45 years ago. Now they're just like, hey, we want to cycle through these people because eventually somebody's going to pay this stuff.
Yeah.
And I think either there's going to be a bubble or there's not. But the thing is that there's so much money behind these big companies that what's $3,000, $4,000 to their bottom line if you're not paying it.
Right.
And I think the hardest conversation, especially for like new agents or even agents that are seasoned like us, is to have a real conversation with that client saying, hey, I'm going to wait. Well, the people last year that told me they're going to wait at 3%, at $300,000 to get a townhouse, now are priced out. There's no
Exactly.
way they're touching a $300,000 townhouse at 5.5%.
Hmm.
They're looking at probably 220, 230. What are you going to buy?
Right.
So
Right.
then guess what? Your $1,200 rental unit that you're paying on that equates to maybe $17,000, $18,000, $19,000 a year that could have been going towards your mortgage, gone.
Yeah.
And then when I hear the term squeezing out the middle class, that is the hardest thing to fathom, right?
Hmm.
Because there is no affordable housing. Like if you go on the MLS and you look under $300,000, it is a gong show for how many people are fighting for that thing
Yeah.
and how much
Yeah.
money you have to put in.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yes, I don't know, man. I mean, just kind of going back to as far as there's going to be what the market's going to do. I always tell people this. I say, to me, the most important thing is your monthly payment because, let's say if you're doing a 30-year note on something, and let's say if your purchase price is 400,000, you're paying way more than 400,000 to own that home in over 30 years. You're paying 700,000.
Yep.
So it's like, so I always tell people, I was like, what are you comfortable with on your monthly, because that's what you're paying for, forever, or for however long you're in there. Because the number that you sign for is not what you actually pay. And so, but that's the thing too, when interest rates go up, right? So like now that $400,000 house that you could afford or pay, let's say if you're paying, $1,800 for that, when the interest rates were 2%, well, now you're paying, you know, I don't know, I'm just making up numbers here, but now
Yeah.
you're paying $2,000 for that same house because the interest rate's gone up. So it's
Right.
just, that to me, when people are, unless obviously an investment property is a little different, but when you're looking for your own home, it's like, man, what's your monthly payment and can you afford that going,
And
moving forward?
oh yeah. But those are the hard conversations. So, and today we aren't going to dive into all that. Today is just kind of getting to know us, our story, and as the weeks go on, we're going to be talking about these certain topics or issues or whatever about real estate. But now relating it back. Can you see the Scott on your first year of real estate going through this market saying, "Hey, let me tell you, buyer, you're going to do no inspection. You need to make your decision right now, and you're gonna fight 8 offers."
Hmm.
Could you do that?
Yeah, man, it's not without somebody,
Right?
walking me through it, right? Yeah, because you got to have confidence to be able to tell a buyer
Mm-hmm.
that, right? Like, listen, this is what it's going to take to win it. Like, whether you want it or not, like, I'm going to tell you what it takes to win it, and you have to decide how badly do you want this house, you know?
Exactly. And,
So
and and
yeah,
I think that's where like with there's so many like here they were saying there's more real estate agents than houses for sale in Minnesota right now,
I've heard that.
which is
Yeah,
insane, right? Probably the same thing in Tennessee.
yeah. Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of people leave the industry, which it's hard to make it, right? I don't. I mean, there's just so many stats out there, but I mean, it's hard
Right,
to get past your second year in the business.
right.
I can't remember. I think it's like 80% don't make it to their third year or something. Again, I could totally be making that number
Yeah.
up, but it's something big. So it's definitely not as easy as people assume it is looking, from the outside in.
So what was your hardest moment when you first started? What almost broke you?
So again, when I got laid off that job, I was like this sucks, man. Like I refuse to work for somebody else again. And so, because you can just go take a salary job somewhere, right, and be
Right.
fine, be comfortable, right, like be okay. But I was just like, I refuse to do it, man. Like I'm not gonna let somebody have that over me, man. So I mean, I was broke, dude. I mean, it was,
Yep.
I came back. Yeah, I actually moved out of state, came back to Nashville. This is when I, started doing ballet, and I had a duplex that, that we had owned from when I was here before. It was vacant, when I came back, like everybody was gone. So I stayed with my sister for a little bit, and I fixed up one side of that duplex, and I moved
Yep.
into it. I left all my furniture and stuff, like I was down in Florida actually, for a couple of years, and left all of my stuff down there. So I had nothing. My sister gave me their old lazy boy chair. So I had a chair in this duplex, and that was it, man. I had an air mattress that
Hmm.
when I, it was inflated when I got in it, and it was flat when I woke up in the morning. And so, man, I was just like, this is not fun, man. All my friends, most of my friends, like, because I had a pretty good network here in Nashville, but most of my friends were married and kind of off doing things. I was like, man, this is not fun, dude. So
Yeah.
it was just kind of like, man, I gotta make something happen here, but again, it was my choice, right? It was like I'm making this decision because I know that I could do something on
Yep.
my own. I don't need somebody else to, you know, to give me a paycheck, right? It's like I'm going to make
Right.
this happen. And so, but that was the hard. That was a low moment, man. Getting into it, and just it's not it's scary, right? When you're like,
Oh,
no one, you don't know, you gotta make something happen, but can you actually make it happen? There's that level of like, can I do
100%. I
this?
I think that, like as we're doing this, right? Like it's owning our truths,
Yeah.
knowing where your rock bottom moment is, because it's great. You see that check, 10,000, 15,000. You're like, I can make this happen every single day. Just start drinking
Hmm.
that Kool-Aid. And then you forget how hard it is to get you to this moment and
Yeah.
what took you to get to it, and that how many other people haven't gotten to that moment, right?
Yeah.
Because like as you're going through and you start to have a little bit of success, you start thinking, man, I can do this all the time. And that consistency is always the hardest thing, especially when you first start. And I think that's
Hmm.
where as our followers and our fans and people that will listen to this will relate is we not only have to sell ourselves to our clients, but there is a lot more into being a full-time entrepreneur as a real estate agent than everybody thinks there is. Everybody thinks you just hop out of the car, you go open a door. Hey, I want to put in an offer. Here you go. This is what we do. What we're hoping for everybody to see in the next couple months, year, however this thing lasts, is that journey is always going to be the hardest part, and that you're not alone in all this, because just like your story, my story was awful. I was sold a big. I was taught how to write purchase agreements, how to do everything, but I was never shown how to show a house, how to get reps, none of that stuff. And then you also have, and later on we'll be talking about should you join a team or should you be a solo agent and how does that look? I think those are key things to a lot of these guys surviving, because we've met tons of agents and you think everyone is successful because they're doing a deal with you right now. Before that, every one agent that is successful, there's probably four or five that are struggling to even get a client or know what to do. And what we want to do is like just like Scott's story right there was, hey, reach out, get to know us, because we can help you go through these dark times of here's what you need to do in order to survive in this industry. Because to be in the industry now, if you said you started 2010, so you're in it for 12 full years, you've seen some lean times and you've seen some really good times. But nobody ever talks about the lean times, do they, Scotty?
Yeah. No, it's all gravy. It's all gravy.
It's all gravy, right? I
Uh,
could be a house flipper. I can rent Airbnb. And the cool thing that I found out about Scott is that he used to run a bunch of Airbnbs too. So I think there will be a podcast where we're gonna do all about Airbnbs. Because right
yeah.
now, what are the hot topics? The Burr method, Airbnbs, and there's a lot of other things that we will hit in topics that we will want to talk about. But today it was just kind of giving everybody a who we are, what we do, and I think every Tuesday, Scott, we're gonna
Yeah.
want to
Every
do this.
Tuesday. Let's do it, man.
Yeah. So Guys, this is Petey and Scotty.
This is
We'll
Scott.
be around. We'll be around.